this Labor Day weekend, where I guess most think Labor Day weekend is the time, it's the last holiday before summer ends, and you get to have a cookout. But Labor Day is really set aside to honor those who really make things work. That's not necessarily those who have a title, but those who make it work. And I discovered a long time ago, you might have a title, but that doesn't mean you make anything work. So it's befitting of that, and I would ask you the question this morning. If you turn over to 2 Kings chapter 6, is where's your cutting edge at? Where's your cutting edge? I guess I got to pick on firefighters a little bit. Bob May. Some of the firefighters, I used to say firemen, and that's sexist to say that. Some of the firefighters, I've learned that you have to be a little OCD to be in that position. Because they're always preparing for what hasn't happened. Haven't met too many firefighters that they didn't have everything in order the way it was supposed to be, and you didn't mess with it. Continually checking, making sure everything is functional, because you only need it, Al and I were talking this morning, you only need it when you need it, right? I knew a firefighter in Petersburg, Virginia, where Ruth and I pastored, that he was a firefighter in a local military installation that really was an ammo dump. And I realized there had never been a fire there, because if there had been a fire there, I wouldn't be here today. You know, fire and ammunition don't mix together very well, and half of the south side of Richmond would be gone if there's ever a fire. Continual state of preparedness. But in 2 Kings chapter 6, Elisha he's the head prophet, and God is moving, and the seminary, the training school is growing. More and more coming in, they run out of space. And so they come to Elisha and say, we need more room. And so Elisha says, well, let's go build. One of the prophets, one of the young prophets, as you will see, doesn't have too much of anything to the point that he has to go borrow an axe. That day and time, if you were fortunate enough to have anything made of iron ore, it was worth your weight in gold. So he borrowed an axe. And if you're not familiar with the story, I'm going to read the first 7 verses and share some lessons with you, asking what we need to do to keep our cutting edge here. Chapter 6, and the sons of the prophets said to Elijah, see now the place where we dwell with you is too small for us. Please let us go to the Jordan, and let every man take a beam from there, and let us make there a place where we may dwell. So he answered, go. Then one said, please consent to go with your servants. And he answered, I will go. So he went with them, and when they came to the Jordan, they cut down trees. But as one was cutting down a tree, the iron axe head fell into the water, and he cried out and said, alas, master, for it was borrowed. So the man of God said, where did it fall? And he showed him the place, and so he cut off a stick and threw it in there, and he made the iron float. Therefore he said, pick it up for yourself. So he reached out his hand and took it. Now as we kind of glance at that passage of Scripture, maybe most of you are familiar with that. Some of you are saying, I never heard of iron floating before. Well, it did in 2 Kings here, chapter 6, and there's some poignant lessons for us here that I would share with us. I learned a long time ago that if you had knives, that you had to keep them sharp. And if you didn't keep them sharp, you could hurt yourself with a dull knife a whole lot more than you could with a sharp knife. I've learned that lesson. You know, spiritually speaking, as we prepare for the Lord's Supper this morning, as we look at this Labor Day weekend, a time to celebrate labor, I pose the question to you, and that each and every one of us need this morning, we need to be looking at where and how is our cutting edge? How effective are we? How are we effective as a husband, as a wife? How are we effective in our jobs? How are we effective as a church? How are we effective at building God's kingdom? I think maybe I'm just preaching to me this morning. I think I can be so busy that I'm not taking care of what I need to be taken care of. And that's what this table is about this morning. Yeah, as I ponder this thought here of this young prophet here, here he is, he's borrowed an axe, he doesn't own it himself, he's borrowed it, and he's out doing God's work. I mean, he's just pouring his heart in, and what happens? The axe head falls off and falls into the Jordan River. Obviously he's figured it's gone, and what does he do? He had several options. He could do like sometimes what Steve Simpson probably would do. I don't want to admit it's come off, so I'm just going to stand here and go through the motions. Y'all think it's funny, but you know what? Steve Simpson's good at doing that, going through all the motions. You know what? I bet you're good at going through all the motions. You know the axe head's gone, but you're still going through the motions day in and day out. And how's that working for you? Not too good, is it? See, the table here is a reminder for us to be able to say, Lord, sharpen me. It's a reminder, just like this firefighter who is a fireman at a military installation, that all they house is ammunition. You better hope there's not a fire. And so they prepare. Yeah. He could have kept going through the motions. Here's another option. He could have just said, that's it, I'm out of here, I quit. I'm done. My axe head's gone, doesn't belong to me, I'm going to go figure out how to pay the guy back, I'm out of here. Sounds like some other people I know. How many times you want to quit? Listen, if I could count the number of times I wanted to quit River Bend, if I had a penny for every time I wanted to quit River Bend, I would retire now. No, see, you know, when you're about the business of what's really important and what's significant, you can't do that either. The young prophet did that. What did he do? Master. I've lost it. See, this morning you and I have a chance to cry out to the Lord and say, Master, I've lost it. Or, Master, I haven't lost it, I've neglected it. I've neglected my time with you. You know, it poses a question to you, and believe it or not, some of you folks would laugh at me. I have used some hand tools. I have some hand tools. Occasionally, that axe head comes off. Or that hoe, the handle comes separated. How does that happen? Well, the obvious thing is it's a little embarrassing when it happens. For those of you golfers, I've known a few instances where you swing the golf club and the club head goes and you're left with the stick in your hand. It happens because of neglect. It happens because you've not spent time, you've not paid attention to it, you've not prepared adequately, you've not inspected the equipment. You're not prepared for that. And, you know, considering this, what to me is most important as we think about the table this morning, the first thing you and I have to do is we got to cry out to God and say, Lord, I've lost it. I've lost it. It's an admission here that what I had, I thought I had, and I do not have anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do. I surrender. Does that sound familiar? The Lord's table is a reminder for me this morning that I have to allow Him to sharpen me a little bit. Interesting. I'm also reminded that who the axe belonged to. Not to the young prophet. Belonged to somebody else. Now, let me get a little bit more in your business. my business here. Everything I have doesn't belong to me. If you don't believe me, go over in the New Testament and read about the parable of the talents. Huh? Yeah, everything I have doesn't belong to me. What I have belongs to someone else. It belongs to the Heavenly Father. Everything I have belongs to Him. I'm responsible for it, what I do with it. So if I don't take care of it, what does that mean? I've often joked from time to time that you've never heard me preach a sermon on gluttony, but I probably need to. I don't think I've ever heard a sermon on gluttony. But you want to talk about taking care of yourself, taking care, make sure we remain sharp, maintaining the cutting edge that we need to. First thing is to admit that you've lost it, or you've not been taking care of it. As we come to the table, Lord, I'm not what I need to be. I'm not what I should be. I'm asking you, Lord, to clean me up. I know the price that you paid for me. It's acknowledging that I know what I have, I know who it belongs to, and I know I'm responsible for it. Isn't that right? That's what this table reminds me here. Second thing, not just admitting that I've lost it. I mean, we're good at pretending. I'm good at pretending maybe it didn't happen, and I'm not accomplishing a whole lot. And I think there's a lot of churches today who are just going through the motions, not accomplishing a thing. Second thing this young prophet had to do was he had to determine. He had to make the determination. He had to go back where he lost it. Elijah said, "Where did you lose it?" Now, if you want to think back to where you lost that cutting edge, say, "Lord, take me back to what I had." I have, from time to time, forgotten where I have placed things. Anybody have that issue? I think I had that conversation with certain people this morning. Oh, yeah, I've been missing that. And I've learned in recent years, quite often, what I would say all the time when I misplace something, the common prayer that I say is, "Lord, you know where it is because I don't have a clue. Would you show me? Would you show me?" There has to be not just an admission here that I've lost it. There has to be a determination to go back to where I found it. That's what this table is a reminder for us. It's a place for us to go back to and remember of what Jesus has done for us, of what life you and I have, of what talents you and I have, what work you and I have, what ministry you and I have, what effectiveness we have for our families, and caring and making a difference in this world doesn't belong to us. It belongs to our Heavenly Father, and He has given us a responsibility. It's a determination to go back and say, when did I let go of it? When did I let go? It's going back to the basics. I've had to hear that a lot this week, and I don't like it. I don't like going back to basics. You often heard me joke about the bagpipes and all that. I had to go back to the basics. I don't like that. It's more fun to do the other. It's called practice. It's called coming back and coming to the table to say, "Lord, show me." You and I have the place right now, the responsibility to say, "Lord, show me where I have either lost that effectiveness, that sharpness, or where I quit seeking after you." I have a few dull knives at home. And it seems like every time I really need a sharp knife, the first one I pick up is not sharp. And then I have to look for a sharp knife. I know none of you have that problem. But I do. But there has to be some determination. Elisha says, "Show me where it went in at." If you want your cutting edge back, you need to go back where you left it. The third thing I point out to you as we look at the table this morning I think I have to ask myself, why did I lose it? Why is it in the shape that it's in? If you try, if you really have the courage to take a deep and serious look at your spiritual life, to discover where that cutting edge has gotten a little bit dull, that's where He wants you. Say, Lord, where? How? Elijah says, where's it at? I like the latter part of this lesson here. What does Elisha do? Those that have read ahead know the story. What does Elisha do? Wake up. Tell me somebody. He takes a stick. What does he do? Throws it in the river. Well, I'll tell you what Steve Simpson would have done if Elijah had done that. I'd say, I want the axe head. I don't need you playing skip the rock. You know. No, he throws the stick in the river. What happens is the axe head floats up to the surface. And this is where a very valuable lesson that I think about is the fact that I want you to notice who picked the axe head up. It wasn't Elisha. It was that young prophet. Elijah just said, made it possible for it to happen. Well, we know God made it possible, but Elisha throws a stick and that axe head floats up, and then Elisha says, pick it up. You know, once we determine and confess that we're not what we need to be, and we've allowed Him to do a work in us, and we ask the question, Lord, why did I do that? Probably because of neglect in some way. That young prophet didn't stop to look at the axe head to see if it was loose, what he could do to have shored it up and make sure it remained steady and strong. Elijah says, pick it up. There's several truths in that as well I point out to you. First off, I think I've learned a lesson is I believe God is in the details. In fact, I know He's in the details. I've often had people say, you don't need to pray to God about every little thing. Oh, yes, I do. And you know what? If you don't feel like you have to, that's fine. But it's a reminder to me that I know who's provided it, I know where it's coming from, and I know that I'm responsible for it. That's why I say, Lord, you know where it is, and you know I'm clueless. Which you should. And you know what He does. I believe our God is in the God of the details here. That He's concerned with the individual. Remember what Jesus said about the 99 sheep? That He leaves the 99 and He goes after the one? Every single one of us have been that one from time to time, haven't we? Aren't you glad He went after the one? This table is a reminder to me that when Jesus sat with that ragtag group of men, one who was going to betray Him, and all of them were totally clueless to the point, and Jesus says, take, eat, and take, drink in remembrance of me. I'm going to shed my life. I'm going to give my life for you so that you might live. They were totally clueless. And I must confess, I'm totally clueless most of the time when I'm praying. But I know who's not clueless. He cares for the individual. A second lesson I learned is that there's no problem too small that He can't take care of. If a man losing an axe head, for him it was the end of the world. It didn't belong to him. That's the first thing that comes out of his mouth. It's Elijah. It doesn't belong to me. And I'll tell you this morning, what you have doesn't belong to you. And what you don't have doesn't belong to you either. I think another truth I see in this is not only does God care and is concerned about our problems, our struggles, He helps us solve them. He does help us solve them. But I want you to notice, and I've been saying it over and over again, sometimes I have to say things over and over again so I can really learn it. Elijah didn't pick the axe head up. It was that serpent. And sometimes you and I, we can be praying and we can be pouring our heart out to God, and it's almost as if that axe head is floating right there in front of us, and the Lord's saying, if you'll just pick it up and use it, you can do that. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Quit praying and do something about it. Yeah, I know it's a little person. Elijah didn't get it for him. The young prophet reached down and picked it up. And it had been restored here. You know, I think, and I mentioned earlier on that sometimes we're just too busy. I think of that story of Mary and Martha, where Martha's fixing supper and Mary's at the feet of Jesus. And I know I've preached that passage many, many, many times. But I think my prescription I've been sharing over and over again with me is Psalm 46:10. Be still and know who's God. Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I'm God. Too many times I've distracted. This table is a reminder to you and I this morning right now that we don't need to be distracted by anything else. You don't need to be distracted by bills. You don't need to be distracted by family. You don't need to be distracted by your health. You don't need to be distracted by the aches and pains that you have. You don't need to be distracted about what you're going to have for lunch, or what you're going to cook for supper, or what you're going to cook out tomorrow, or who you're going to fight with tomorrow, or what you're going to do. It is a time where we can focus in and allow Him to sharpen us as we look at this bread, as we look at this juice, and we're mindful. What I have doesn't belong to me. What He's provided for me for all eternity, I need to stay on top of. I need to stay on top of. Because if we don't, we are as guilty of what Paul said, the body and blood, as we are guilty of enjoying Labor Day, having a nice cookout, and not mindful of what even Labor Day is all about. Post office gets a break, the banks are closed. Yeah, we'll be. I get to have a cookout. Why? See? I know that I'm not anywhere near doing my best. But I know what God's speaking to me is, I need to spend some time sharp. I need some time in the basics. I need to spend more time with Him. Have you lost that cutting edge? I want to tell you, it's not too late. The Bible's filled with examples of that. I mean, how about, for example, Simpson? Simpson is one that God used him as a great judge, and he had a lot of weaknesses, and boy, he really fell. But in the end, he came back. This is a chance for us to say, Lord, touch me where I don't want to be touched. Touch me in every area of my life where I am so sensitive that I don't even want to touch it. And see what He'll do. Let's pray. Lord, we come to you this morning thanking you for the precious gift of life that you've given to us. And Father, I acknowledge you, Lord, we're here for a season and that you are preparing and you are building your kingdom. I'm asking you, Lord, to allow us as individuals and as a church of River Bend, Father, to use us to build and advance your kingdom. Father, help us to make a difference in other people's lives. And I acknowledge to you right now, what I have doesn't belong to me. It all belongs to you, Father. And I know as much is given, much is required, and you can take it away as much as you've given it. And I'm asking you to examine me in every aspect, Father. Search me and try me and know me. And I know you love us. And I know you care for us, because it's evidence is what's in front of us right now with this bread and this juice. Search our hearts, Lord. And reveal to us, Father, those areas that you want to do business with. And allow you to sharpen us in Christ's name. Amen. Invitation.